He says going live now, but I have to wait for a delay, so hopefully the delay is done. We can never time it exactly right. Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. I am the host, Chris Gazdick, here with Victoria Pendergrass and Mr. John. We call him the Pope because his last name is...
The Pope. Pope John.
Pope John.
Right.
I won't call you Paul, though.
No. No, don't do that.
So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where we turn on the mics before we turn on the mics that you find on Spotify and YouTube and all those kind of places. So we're going to be talking about how to actively build trust. And I'm excited about this conversation because this is something that everyone has confusion about to some extent, I think. And it's something that everyone needs to do with the important relationships that you have. And so when there's something important that you need to do and you don't know how to do it, that's a problem. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Pope?
Exactly.
Right? So I'm excited about this conversation. The therapy questions or the thought questions that I want you to think about as we go through the show or in my relationships. How do I define trust? Do I feel I am trustworthy? Isn't that an interesting thing? Trustworthy. Is that something we think about? Because arguably not. What actions from others make me feel safe, valued, and respected? And have I experienced a breach of trust before? I'm going to tell you, yes, you probably have. And how has that shaped my view of trust in current relationships? So there's a nice connection. This is where we turn on before we turn on, I guess. We love your feedback throughout YouTube episodes. We do this Thursdays at about 6:15, usually a few more minutes than that, but pretty close to quarter after. I don't know. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, we try to start earlier.
Yeah. Especially now, right?
Yeah, that I have a hard stop.
At your request.
Yeah.
So, you guys have a good week?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not in the hospital.
I know, right? A whole week out of the hospital.
Yeah, we're great.
I
Glad you're
graduated.
He was wide open on the air last week.
Oh, was he?
What happened? Yeah.
I need to get.
So,
Yeah.
Any improvement this week? And
No, they still haven't found anything.
Just a mystery, huh?
Mystery. I have those spots on my spinal cord and on the right, the meninges on the right side of my brain.
But no passing out this week.
No passing out and
Okay, good.
no headaches. So
I didn't know you had headaches.
I did have headaches. I was having all these migraines. So
wow.
I was having that, and then a kind of a dull headache a lot of times.
All this went away?
Well, they're going away. I still have a little bit of mild headaches. I hadn't had a migraine in since they did a spinal tap on me.
Okay.
So,
oh, God. Spinal tap. That sounds terrifying, Neil.
Yeah. And my news from earlier this week. Had a stray dog follow me into the office.
Yeah.
That was.
See what you get on YouTube.
That was quite.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I come in the office and I'm thinking a therapy dog.
Yeah, not quite.
Nope.
Not quite.
Stray dog literally followed me into the office.
All right, it's 6:30, y'all. Neil, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's get her going.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on October the 17th. I believe this is 2024, right, John?
Right.
Right. Okay, good. I got the right year.
I'm getting closer to Jesus. every day. Every day.
Every day.
TikTok.
So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. We pop on Thursdays on YouTube Lives. If you're catching us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and all that kind of stuff, I encourage you to check out looking at Victoria's beautiful face when she's talking on YouTube. And also, I must say, we haven't had a new YouTube subscriber in a few weeks that we have seen or noticed. You do have to have your subscription publicly. What is it, Neil? Your profile needs to be pointed towards public, and if it's not, then we won't see you. So we may have had some, but if you haven't told a friend, tell a friend. That's your job. You got to tell a friend, help us to grow, help them to get a free resource that's really good for them.
And a 5-star review.
And, of course, the 5-star reviews. We don't want John to be upset. We're taking care of him. He has headaches, so don't give him a problem.
Exactly.
Give us a 5-star review.
Yes.
He opens his eyes wide,
So.
You would see on YouTube. All right, we're going to be talking about how to actively build trust. The therapy questions that I want you to think about throughout the show today are, in my relationships, how do I define trust? And do I feel I am trustworthy? Which, help me remember, y'all, we need to have a conversation about focusing on trustworthiness of myself rather than the other person, which is where we usually tend to focus. Fair?
Right.
Right.
Well, it's part of the Scout law.
Keep that in your brain. We'll come
Scout
back.
is trustworthy.
What actions from others make me feel safe, valued, and respected? And thirdly, have I experienced a breach of trust before? I'm going to answer that for you, listening. Yes. And how has that shaped my view of trust in current relationships? All right. So let me see. Got the book out. I need to get excited about this, begin telling people, begin really kind of emphasizing the publication date of December the 17th, rapidly approaching. Look, we're going to make an attack on marriage, not an attack on marriage, an attack on things that prevent healthy marriages. This book is about marriage. It's a good book. It's a thick book. It's got a lot of amazing
What's the name
cool
of it?
things in it. Through a therapist's eyes, re-understanding your marriage and becoming your best as a spouse, John.
Okay.
7 more times, you say?
6 more times.
That's a lot of times in one episode
Okay.
when we're not talking. Well, we are going to be talking about that a little bit. Maybe I can accomplish that. We'll see.
That's right.
We'll see. Thank you. So this is where you get insights from a panel of therapists, not to delivery of therapy services in any way. And what else do we need to say? I think that's good. Ready to roll, Victoria?
Yeah, you got to say your thingy.
The human emotional experience, which
We endeavor to figure out together.
it's our thingy. All right. What is trust anyway, y'all? What are we talking about when we talk about purposely building trust? We always go with definitions a little bit. How do you see this? Because I have a very specific thing that I always go to help people understand just how dynamic this is. But I'm curious how you guys help people understand this. Trust.
Trust specifically?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got anything
I'm
in your
trying to think.
toolbox?
Do you use anything from Erickson? Eric Erickson's?
Not with
Trust,
this.
trust versus mistrust
Oh,
as an
that
early
whole-
stage.
Not with this.
Things.
Go with that. What we talk about?
No, I think it's from the very earliest ages, and I think that's one of the things that a child knows, that he or she is loved and can feel safe.
So you're talking about stages of development.
Stages of development, and so it would be it's very important to establish that from the get-go, particularly as parents. So
You don't
trust.
learn it as a child, it's hard to learn it as an adult.
Exactly.
Yeah, Erickson has different developmental stages, and I hadn't thought about that in his context, but that's probably one of the primary pieces of Maslow's hierarchy. We talked
Yeah.
about that he's helping people understand developmentally what happens early in life. Huh?
If you don't know that, let's say you don't have the safety, you don't have the house, you don't have love, you don't have food, and love, you're going to have a distrust that's going to be basic and follow you throughout your life unless you do some intentional repatterning, and you would make relationships with people that would engender trust.
Right.
And so if you don't trust yourself, you're going to have problems trusting others.
If I don't have basic needs met, all people who have been neglected,
Mhm.
experienced abuse and neglect, this is a primary issue, being able to trust another human being.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna do it because it ain't worked out for me, and that's sad. That's
Yeah.
It
really
is.
a problem, isn't it? Okay. I really like to go into a space where how we think about trust typically, I feel like, is warped. First of all,
Warped?
Warped.
Okay.
First of all, we tend to think, Victoria, I trust you, or I don't trust you. And that's not a way to think about this, right? Trust really operates on a full 1 to 100 scale. And yeah, my mic wasn't on. Can you hear me all right now? Yikes. My mic was off, y'all. Apologize.
It's going to sound like that you're talking
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
in a bucket.
Do we need to start over, or what? We okay? Oh, I turned it off.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. So it wasn't that way that long. So it's not I trust you, Victoria, but I don't trust John. It's I trust John on a level from 1 to 100, somewhere around, he's the salt of the earth kind of guy, 74.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I trust you a lot. Victoria, Unfortunately, you're about
fine.
23, 27 maybe.
You're fickle.
I don't trust her a whole. Now I'm making this all up, and she's giving me an expression that's making me feel guilty. Right. So
Yeah.
it isn't an either or, and on or off. Also, there are two different parallel forms of this that people don't think about, and that is a trust on a 1 to 100 on your intent. But there's also a trust on a 1 to 100 of your ability. Now, John, I love
Right,
you.
yeah.
You're a hard-working man, and I trust you on a high level. But I fall out on this floor, and I can't breathe, and you come at me with a knife and a pen, I'm going to tell you to call 911, don't touch me.
Oh,
Right?
I
do
would
not
agree.
trust your ability,
I would agree.
but I trust your intent
Yeah.
a high level.
Even
Right.
if I had slept at a Holiday Inn,
Right. It's not going to help.
it's not going to help.
It's not going to help this situation. I don't want you cutting me. All right? If a
Right.
nurse practitioner was here that I have a student, then I'm all about Kendra helping me out.
Yeah.
I literally have a student right now shadowing me, right? I trust her ability. She's a freaking nurse practitioner, and she's going to save my life, so I'm good, right? I'm scared, but I still trust her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's really an important variations there. It is not an all or nothing, and there's trusting intent and trusting ability. I don't think many people think about this that way.
Yeah.
Curious
I would
if y'all have ever heard anything like that.
Not on like a continuum spectrum.
Yeah.
But I have heard about the the difference between like
Variation.
trust and ability to carry out things
Okay. Yeah.
and
You know,
whatnot.
this isn't an automatic thing. I'm really interested in our conversation today because I said before on the YouTube live, like I feel like this is something that not a lot of people know how to do. If we were to do interviews on the street and say, "Hey, how do you actively build trust?" I think we would get the silliest answers. Now, I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean, or a lot of I don't knows.
I think it'd be a lot of I don't knows.
Yeah.
A whole lot of I don't knows. And we all need to do this. You listening, you need to be doing this in your relationships. It is not an automatic thing. It is not a permanent thing. It is a fluid reality. This is something that is built over time. It's actually probably more difficult to build it and really easy to lose it.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that a fair statement?
Oh.
Yeah.
And with some people, it only takes one time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing and it's blown up. So trust is a very delicate, fluid, constantly changing reality. Now, if you told me you went and got some medical care and you learned about tracheotomies and things like that, John, and you told me that your military training
I was a
armed
Navy
you-
corpsman, and I learned how to do that.
Okay, I just learned that you have a trustworthiness and that I need to challenge my ability to trust you if you come at me with a knife and a pen when I can't
Yeah.
breathe. Right?
Right.
Constantly moving, constantly changing. We're constantly learning. And I want you listening to understand this is very, very fluid. It's a foundation for emotional safety, structure, and vulnerability. And that's what you were talking about with Erickson. Right?
Right.
This means believing that the other person has your best interest in mind. That's trusting their intent and will act consistently with integrity.
Two
which has to
spinal
do-
taps I had to trust. And then I found out one, both of them were like PAs or nurse practitioners.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I think the neurologist should do this. And then somebody told me, said, no, you want this person to do it because that's all this person does is do spinal taps.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah.
trust level went way
A lot more
Yeah.
than a neurologist who may do it occasionally.
Yeah. Gotcha. There's
But I
real
think that's
reality.
also like a blinding trust because, for example, like,
blind trust.
yeah.
Okay.
For example, like when I, go to the doctor, I'm automatically assuming and trusting that my doctor has the proper like education and ability to carry out the things that I need them to do. Like I'm not, like going to give birth and like asking for the credentials of my doctor and like where they went to school and like
So
where
wait a
they
minute.
do.
Is blind trust good or bad? What? It's interesting.
Well, maybe that may not have been the right
Word.
word then.
Yeah,
you
because
have
blind
But do you
a
get what I'm
preset.
saying? Like, I mean,
You have
like we're not.
a predicated
Yeah.
trust because, in other words, you know this person has the credentials.
Right. Like I have to trust that they wouldn't have gotten the job at the hospital to deliver my baby had they not had the proper training. Like, or am I totally off base here?
I don't want to pick on you, but I'm struggling with the word blind. I don't think that's a good thing. I
was
think
gonna say,
you're kind of describing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's not the right word.
You're describing
I think
characteristics.
predicated is a better
Predicated
word.
probably is a good word
Okay.
because you're looking at like what kind of degrees do these people have on their wall? Is this legit? Is this a legit practice? Are they licensed with
Right.
a board?
See, I see
You know.
your "I love me" wall, and
Yeah. He's pointing out my degrees.
your
and stuff that I have on
degrees
my
and all
thing.
that. Yeah.
The I love me.
I
wall.
love me. Well, I love that.
I love me some me, Neil. Look at my degrees. I don't know. I should take them down now.
No,
No,
you shouldn't.
well-
No, that gives trust.
It does.
That's
That's why we have them
helps the
posted.
client.
As a matter of fact, that's ethical to do that.
I was literally just about to say, like, you're kind of supposed to have
Yeah,
it
you have
visible.
to. It's ethical. Now, blind trust is interesting, though, that you bring that up because to me, people will blindly trust people, which I'm going to submit puts you at a risk.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So maybe blind in my example was not the right word.
Yeah.
I agree more with what this guy said.
Predicated trust. Because blind trust is dangerous, John. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be very, aware and naivete.
Yeah, that's like the trust fall.
Is dangerous.
I gotta trust that you're gonna catch me.
Yeah, man. I'm putting my life in your hands by falling back, and you guys are like 20 pounds, and I don't think 5-year-olds are going to catch me. I'm not having blind trust there. I'm looking
Yeah,
who's
no,
back
okay,
there.
I get what you're
Again,
saying.
we're back
Yeah.
with the knife and the
The pin.
Yeah,
pin.
I want to know your qualifications.
yeah.
I'm not going blindly to this.
Right.
Trust your intent, but dude, I got to have some verification on your ability. Yeah. So the other thing that I thought, I'm curious what you guys think about this and understanding and wrestling around with what we're talking about. What do you think about the idea that having a good sense of what to expect from day to day might be kind of an interesting way to think about that's trust? What do you think?
I think I'm having trouble. I'm having to reread this.
Like with your marriage, with your
Okay.
relationships, if you have a sense of what's going to happen from day to day, I mean, there's always surprises.
Right.
But it's really, really difficult when you have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
That's
Low
a
levels of trust.
that's a fresh hell.
So
yeah.
fresh hell. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, if you don't know how your spouse is going to be or your partner, and one day, or you feel like you're always walking on eggshells,
I hate eggshells.
walking on eggshells.
that a song?
Walking on sunshine.
Oh, walking on sunshine.
And don't it feel good?
No.
Yeah.
John,
but if
you
you're
got me
walking,
singing in public, man.
if you
This
got
is-
to walk,
I've been doing this with you way too long,
yeah,
man.
yes, you have.
I don't sing in
See,
public.
you like
ever.
80s
Now you
music.
do.
But
It's getting me.
I don't like if I felt like I was not having a relationship that was trustworthy, and I couldn't trust my spouse or my partner, and I didn't know where I stood with the partner or something like that, it would be a fresh hell.
It's distressing.
Distressing, yeah.
Exhausting.
Yeah, because I need to have one island in my life that I can always rely on.
It's trustworthy.
It's trustworthy.
Predictable, safe. Yeah, I think I was doing I did this somewhere later on, but I'll bring it out now. Like if you can imagine, for instance, like in a substance abuse family system, we've talked about that on the show. You literally come home every single day, and you don't know if mommy's going to be drunk, passed out on the couch, if mommy's going to be drunk, screaming and yelling and fighting, or if mommy's going to be the normal mommy that comes home and we
And has
have
dinner ready and blah, blah, blah.
You have
or
no
whatever.
idea.
Yeah.
Which one or something
Well,
different
let's say
is going
there's
to
a
be.
mood disorder in the family, and it's mommy or daddy.
Yep.
You don't know who you have.
Right? They're going to be stuck in bed, depressed, and strangely not talking to me, or
Right.
they're going to be engaged and come to my baseball practice and coach my team.
And let's
you know?
say you're 11 years old, and you don't know how to process that, and you don't know that there's something amiss with that.
John, I'm 51 years old, and honestly, I have a hard time processing it.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right, and I think that would so that person doesn't have the tools to be able to. I think at 51, and you're a very young-looking 51.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dang,
So-
beast.
So, you would have problems with trusting.
Yeah.
You would feel like, is it me? Is it I? Is there something wrong with me?
I was like,
that
then you might
mommy's
start to
like this?
internalize it.
Internalize it. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I'm just listening to you, and I'm thinking, my goodness, this is a major task for all of us. However, when you have something, and usually we see this in therapy all the time, that was embedded or troublesome very early. It's a wonder why you've lived the life with all of these patterns
Yeah.
from childhood up until, some people live a lifetime this way, never even realizing that they don't have an ability to trust because of things that they've never really resolved.
So they don't have that awareness. And I think the
Right.
difference is when that light bulb goes on, let's say they have that moment of clarity and they say, I don't trust because this is what's happened to me.
Right.
Then I can start to change.
Now
and
we
make
can
it intentional.
get to the topic of the show. How do we really actively, purposefully build this with somebody? And I think you're right, Victoria. There's a whole lot of I don't knows out there. So let's get to it, right? This is important, really, because it develops emotional safety. You strengthen your communication, your support, vulnerability, your conflict resolution effectiveness goes way up. You build long-term stability. I mean, there's so much in the game that you're going to gain if you listen to how to actively do this. So does that sound interesting?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking you're got to be interested in your car, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of causes to this, though, too. And I think it's important to have an understanding of, as you were just talking about, various betrayals, various past. I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine in college. I'm going to leave her unnamed because I don't want to do that.
I hope she's a very young-looking 51-year-old.
I think she probably is a very young-looking 52-year-old.
52-year-old.
She had me
Good.
by a year, maybe two. I forget.
Okay.
Anyway, we were talking, and I was shocked one day. We were working through some stuff. It was an emotional conversation, is all I remember. But my best friend in high school, his name was Robert. I'll put that out there. Hey, boy, if he ever catches this. He stood her up, John. Absolutely stood her up. And this was like 3, 4, 5 years later. She was tore up about that. Still.
Yeah.
Now, I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah.
But I think that goes into like, this stuff can really, these hurt spots can run real deep, real fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about probably almost any couple that has sat down on your couch that's had like, repetitive cheating.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Like, or, drinking problems or whatever. Like, well, they've done it before. And da-da-da-da-da-da.
They have a gambling problem, and by
Why?
golly, we're not going to
Yeah,
have big
why
bills
should I
this month.
trust that, like, this is going to be the time that they change? And why should I trust that, like, why should I put myself through this
Or
again?
even better yet, Victoria, I trusted that you're going to remain sober and
Right.
then drink. And I trusted you that you're going to remain sober again, and you drank.
And
And,
yeah.
again, and again, and again. We're 6 times deep.
Yeah.
How much do I believe, right? It sucks the wind out of a relationship.
And I guess this probably refers to, like, past things and whatnot, but I was going to say, and you don't have it listed here per se, but, like childhood and parenting, like,
Erickson stuff.
yeah, well, like, as a kid, you're trusted. Like, you have to, like, your job as a parent is to create, like, how much, like, to create trust for your kid by, like, providing them with the food that they need, providing them with clean
Stability.
diapers, stability, clothes, like, a good,
You're teaching
Okay.
a lot
these
of love
things.
and respect.
And so I think that's where sometimes a lot of time, like, it gets messed up down the road is when it's Am I jumbling?
No. What I
Okay.
was just,
It's like if it starts at home and your parents didn't provide you with those basic things to like as a
Or weren't
foundation
able
of,
to.
or were able to as a foundation of like how to trust someone, then like I feel like that's then drastically going to impact like
The
all
rest
your
of life.
your future relationships
Until
like,
you actively do something about it.
yeah.
Okay, just to add on to what she's saying on that, Victoria. I think it's not just the being there in terms of your presence and you're having your
Yeah, I know.
your the providing the basic necessities of life. I think
Right.
it's also making a promise and keeping it. And so one of the things is that sometimes be a little circumspect what you promise because you need to make sure that you're there. And if somebody says, Dad, will you go to my game? And you say, I promise, and you better make sure that you're there. And that
Promise
was
is a promise.
a promise
Yeah.
is a promise.
That's a phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I tell you, there's all sorts of things. I think I'll go and share a quick story that I've shared publicly before to really demonstrate the power of how this can operate, right? So the story is when and how I found out about, mommy and daddy separating. It was a rough day, man, because we had a dinner. We usually had dinner at the table, right? And this was like no other day, but dad was there. That was a little different, but still cool. But there was a different air in the room. There was something up. And I knew something was up when we were informed that there was dessert. John, we didn't always have dessert,
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
right?
In the air tonight.
So, the air tonight.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a very pretty feeling in the air.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who spoke first or what was said. I think it might have been my mom because she was sitting to my right. My brother was across the table. My sister was right next to me. And my dad was to my left in our normal seating positions. And it was said that he was going to be leaving. And all I remember is popping out of my chair, running the 2 steps and jumping into his lap, just sobbing, right? Just sobbing like my world has just been crushed. And then I don't remember much of what was said. I was about 10, 9.
About
It's
10.
fragmented, so 9, 10, 11, I'm not sure.
Kind of traumatic.
Absolutely, it was traumatic.
Yeah.
And the next thing is the question is asked me, hey, do you want to go see Dad's apartment? I'm like, what? And I walked across the living room and I looked down at the car. It's fully packed. And I'm like, and I don't remember anything else other than
It was surreal, wasn't it?
it was surreal. I
Yeah.
just remember sitting in the back seat. You know how you put your head as a kid in between the front seats so
Yeah.
you could be a part of the front. And I just remember driving out of my neighborhood that way, and I remember nothing else. Now, I'm okay. I actually remember telling somebody that story on a podcast, and my buddy heard it, and he was like, "Oh my God, I just wanted to give you a hug." But the thing is that did a number on me. I had to do a lot of work throughout life to regain the ability to trust, even when I have a solidified relationship in my life.
Yeah.
That probably plays a little psychology in my little kid brain. Like,
Well, yeah.
oh, really? You going anywhere, Victoria? You going to leave the practice? You said you're going to retire here. Really? All right. Okay, we'll see. Yeah,
People
we'll see.
always leave things like that.
That's what
Yeah.
happens. Right? So I've done a lot of work to kind of pull that back.
Yeah.
In my
Are you
brain.
leaving, Victoria?
No, she's
No,
not.
I'm not leaving.
You better not be. But it's a powerful thing that happens to you. And Victoria, thank you for helping us understand the myriad of ways that when you're young, this happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably deal with that a lot with your children in your practice.
Trust?
Trust.
Yeah.
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 You see it work
I
out
see
in
it, yeah.
You see it in the play. And
Yeah. It may not necessarily be like a topic of conversation because some kids don't necessarily, who don't know how to articulate that. But definitely like in high schoolers and stuff who can actually like articulate what trust is and like can talk about it in a more of like way like that, then yeah, it actually does come up a lot. Now that I think about it.
We mentioned a lack of consistency. We mentioned the betrayal and the different hurts. We mentioned a little bit about open communication, and actually, like that was, I didn't have open communication. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
was floored, and I'm still pissed off a little bit to this day.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, my parents told my older brother, they didn't tell me.
Yeah.
He knew. He knew on that day,
How
on
much
that meal, what was
older?
going on, and I did not. And I
How
don't-
much
I still
older?
Don't like that.
How much older?
3.5 years older.
Okay.
See, it's appropriate.
Well, and I
you know,
think
it's-
like
was
it makes me think about. I had a client tell me that because their parents never argued in front of them, that it was like out of left field.
to have an
When
argument.
well no for when their parents announced
Oh,
they were
and
separated,
they got separated?
because they were like, what the
Right.
heck, like
Right.
you've literally shown no signs, at least in front of us,
And
like
now you're leaving.
and then now hindsight is as an adult is like, okay, well yeah, there were a lot of things that were happening that I didn't necessarily see, but like yeah, I mean like that's going to affect, like, well, I can't trust that, like this,
You didn't tell
like
me.
that's gonna be like my relationship is going good in the future, my romantic relationship, but in the back of my head I'm always thinking that they're gonna leave because my parents, they never argued, and then they, you know, or we never saw them argue, and then they got divorced. And like
Powerful
blah, blah, blah,
reality
blah, blah.
to try
Yeah,
to battle your subconscious to know something different.
yeah,
And that's what we're talking about, is battling your insecurities, battling your fear,
yeah,
battling your doubt in people, battling the tendency that we get jaded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these are powerful things, and they happen from these things.
yeah,
So that affects your perhaps your present. Let's move forward a little bit into adulthood. There's a deficit of trust
Yes.
in growing up, and so you would think that you would have some questions with a partner or spouse and saying, yeah, should I trust her or him with
Or even, yeah, and honestly, I just want to make the point that this isn't always in childhood either.
Oh,
This is
no, yeah.
absolutely, you had all the family validation and support, encouragement, and positive relationships, consistent, predictable, healthy, but then you get married and you find yourself in the relationship that 10 years later, bam, they leave you. And
you're like,
it
what?
just makes you question everything you ever
I have
believed.
a
Yeah.
client that is still mourning for a relationship from 20 years ago and a break, stuck. And that client was able to marry and to
Oh,
have children.
nice.
Good for her.
But it is nice. It is
Had a
nice.
great
But
therapist.
there, yes, thank you. But there's that mourning and inability now to fully give oneself heart into the present relationship.
So let me suggest, as we begin talking about how to actively build trust, as we get through the segments that causes this problem, understand that the energy as you do work goes way down, but it never goes away, John, does it?
No.
Victoria, it's always in the back of your head.
yeah.
But the thing is we can manage that, though.
It's a little bit more yes, it's more
manageable because the
more
energy is
manageable.
way lower. It doesn't hurt as much, and that's honestly where I am with my parents' divorce and that vignette.
It's
that
on
I
the
played
super
out.
back burner.
It's okay. I'm really okay with
Yeah.
it. It's not an impact, but boy, it used to be. It used to be. So there's a great amount of hope in that. So. Communication styles, we talked about openness. Yeah, let your kids know a little bit what's going on. They can handle it. I think a lot of times we're afraid of that, Victoria.
I think we forget how resilient kids actually can be.
Oh, they're way more resilient than us.
Way
oftentimes.
more resilient than us adults.
The avoidance styles that we talk about with engulfment,
Yes.
that can really break into like my ability to trust because I'm on the abandonment side. But also, when you have an over-talking style, I may be guilty of that, John. Maybe guilty of that also, Victoria. She raised her hand on YouTube, just so you know. Listen, that breeds... This is why marital communication is so hard.
Yeah.
Because there's these styles that you get into, and you do what you do when you get worked up, and it triggers the other person, and it's constant drain, a chronic drain
Yeah.
on trust. But there's a book, John, Through a Therapist's Eyes, re-understanding your what did I say? Through a Therapist's Eyes, re-understanding your marriage and becoming your best as a spouse. Boy, that's a tongue twister sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, next time, the third book of this trio, you're going to have a shorter subtitle.
I'm going to shorter subtitle it
Shorter,
to help
yeah.
myself out.
Yeah.
right,
But
what
that's
else?
the fourth time is Through a Therapist's Eyes.
So, unrealistic expectations. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on talked about this, but episode 288. Remember, resentments are a marriage killer. Y'all, it listen to 288 on that, and then fears of vulnerability. So, how do we do this? What are we doing? How do we actively build trust? We got a YouTube comment that says, "Very good subject, thank you," and ma'am, you are welcome. Are you interested in figuring out how to actively do this? What do we do? How do we do this? How does this build? How do we grow this? If we want to be purposeful.
Usually the one thing, I know you have it listed here, but I also tell basically every client of mine is consistency is key.
Be consistent.
It's consistent. Like, it's if you're trying to rebuild the trust with your kids, okay, and you're trying to make them see that you really care about them and that you do.
Maybe as a divorced parent
Yeah.
or blended family,
Yeah.
step parent, right?
Yeah. And so what you've decided to do is like text your kid every morning and say like, I love you. Have a great day. Like, we don't just do that for a week or, when we feel like it. That's like, if we're going to do it, we're committing. It's going to be every day.
Behavior.
Every day. And then every day when they come home, I'm asking them how their day went, or
play
I'm
off-
doing these things. I'm doing these things. And that may not necessarily specifically be for trust, but for as far as consistency, like we're doing it. We're not just doing it one time. Oh,
Right.
it didn't work. Oh, never mind. Whatever. We're doing it
So
over and over again.
what I'm hearing is it's not like a diet where you will go on something and maybe lose a lot of weight and then
go
you
back.
Go back. It is a lifestyle change.
Yes.
So it's a change of self.
And I want to build on that, Victoria, because you're making me think of something that I think is a powerful parenting thing as well that I learned from Love and Logic, specifically with teenagers. Think about your behavior in your relationships, whether you're a parent, whether you're talking about marriage, because your behavior speaks loudly to
Right.
trustworthiness. So, when we have elementary school kids and even middle schoolers a little bit, but certainly, 10 years and younger, we wrestle with our kids, we cuddle with our kids, we snuggle and lay together in bed, and we, jump in the same blanket. It's all of that closeness.
Right.
And then they turn into teenagers, and we stop touching. Right?
They
No.
stop touching.
Well,
But
We
no,
stop
also you
to-
create
They-
that boundary. Like there is a certain point, like right now, I still kiss my kid on the lips
yeah.
because he's 2.5.
Okay, yeah,
But yes, there will be a point where like that just
Change that.
stops. Like all of a sudden one day
Yeah,
I will
that's
not do
gross.
that.
Yeah, that would be a little weird. But,
Right.
but the thing is this is important because, I really formed behavior hearing that at that conference that I went to, and I found a reason to dap my kids, to slap them high five,
Right.
to pat them on the back or punch them in the arm. I didn't want to get into fighting and wrestling with them anymore because my kid was a little bit of a hothead, and that was dangerous. But I found ways because when a teenager is no longer touched, they unmistakably lose trust.
Yeah.
Feel like they're not loved. Something's different.
Something's isolated.
changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because then a lot of times, like, there's no communication of why those things are happening. We have
a YouTube comment that says, "How do you actively build trust? Don't break it." That's awesome. Actually, we're going to talk about a little quick handout if I have time to get to it about when it does get broken. What is it that we're trying to do and what do we want to do to heal and recover that? But what else? How do we actively build this? Interesting. Well, I added that already. Yeah. The
Communication.
touching piece. How much do you guys deal with this outside of marriage counseling in therapy? I'm curious.
trust.
Yeah, because I think, unfortunately, is it possible to say that we fail to teach this enough in therapy?
Well, I feel like we don't really teach it unless it comes up as an issue
Yeah.
with our clients, or unless that we see that like they have an issue.
I'm just going to submit that I think if we challenged ourselves and we practiced some vulnerability and did some
and just like
transparency,
naturally taught it, even
the
if
reality
it's
is, I think we deal with in therapy more about the problems that caused the distrust rather
than the trust
actively
itself.
building trust in a
not.
relationship.
Yeah, I can see
Is
that.
that fair? You know what I mean?
Oh,
What
I
do
can
you
see
think,
that.
John?
I would agree very
Yeah.
Do
much
you?
so. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
That's unfortunate.
yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah.
I think that's one thing that the longer I've been practicing, the more I've been doing that with folks. But I think it's helping people learn these life skills that actually will help them with their own sense of self-acceptance and happiness and fulfillment.
All of those emotional safety, better communication, supporting
Yeah.
vulnerability. Yeah, all these things.
Yeah.
There's so many payoffs, honestly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like the follow through on promises, John, you were talking about. And then, you know, our politics nowadays is all kind of cranky. I think around the world, we know that. And I think one of the things is because in the fast paced meme world that we live in, meme, M-E-M-E, instead of mean world.
Which could be
Which we also live in a mean
Probably
world.
a mean world too. Yeah, fair enough. Politicians are not allowed to say, "Hey, I screwed up. I got it wrong." Period.
So, admitting to mistakes.
I don't trust you
And
if
taking
you tell me
responsibility.
all the time, "I'm right. I never make mistakes. I'm right. I got the right plan." You know what? It would be
'Cause you know what I'm
refreshing for
calling?
somebody to say,
BS.
"Yeah,
in the
Absolutely.
military. I'm just in terms of leadership. I had to go to leadership school.
Yeah,
in
cool.
and we talked about fess up, own up when you make a mistake.
yeah."
You screw up.
Breeds,
And-
creates, develops, actively builds trust.
Exactly.
But I do think. Sorry.
Well, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say that a person that knows that their leader has some vulnerabilities is that they'll in humility they'll be more likely to say, "Okay, how can I help bolster you in your leadership?"
You know what I say in
follow.
therapy?
100%.
I say, "Oh, how human of you."
Right. Right.
But I also do think, and that, or maybe this is more posing a question, but do you think that sometimes people take advantage of admitting mistakes and taking responsibility because then it seems like they never do anything to change it? Like, yes, they admit it, but then they never seem to like do.
But can't you see through that manipulation or that?
Or you, I mean,
I'm
you.
wrong.
The hope would be yes.
Yeah.
Well, the listener
But I
to this
do
show
think that-
can now, John, because now we understand that there is, I trust your intent. But Victoria, I don't trust your ability
your
in
ability
that
to carry it
situation.
out. Yeah, because like it makes me think of. I know we keep going. A lot of times we use drinking and like substance use, but it makes me think of like, hey, this weekend we're gonna go to this party, and I promise that I'm only gonna have a 2-drink
That's a word.
limit.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
I promise I'm gonna have a 2-drink limit. Okay, well we go to this party. I mess up because
4 or
we're all
5
having a
beers
good
later.
time. I have 6 beers. Okay, then I realize we got in a fight. I messed up. The next day I apologize. I admit my mistake. I take full responsibility. I got caught up in the moment. I had 6 beers instead of 2.
Right.
Okay,
Victoria,
but then the next weekend we have another party, and I make another promise of like, or
Same thing
not even
happens
the next
again.
weekend, but like 3 months down the road.
Fair enough. Okay.
Like we go to another party, and I make the same promise, and like,
Victoria, let me speak. Okay. So, what I'm thinking is in terms of an addiction, dealing with addictions, you kind of are frozen at the level of where that addiction began.
Right.
And so, if you're a 17-year-old and you start dealing with the addiction, you're going to be emotionally, a 17-year-old, even if you say I've abstained or
At 35
something.
years old.
At 35 years old or
Right.
40 years old or
Okay.
50 years old. And
Okay, I get that. So then what if we replace the example with, I promise I'm not going to yell at you or scream at you?
Fair enough.
And then that it happens. And so then it's like this whole, but I think that, I mean, yes, I do agree that is manipulation and like, and things like that. But I also agree that sometimes people can't point that out or people struggle like realizing that that's what's happening to them.
Well, I think a lot of it, like I said, is the thing that people don't really think about is trusting somebody's ability. And they
Right.
stay with a fixed, I trust you, John, or I don't trust you. But we're really usually talking about your intent. And there's so much more in trusting somebody's ability. A kid is probably going to look at their parent and say, yeah, Victoria, sure, you're never going to yell at me. I believe that.
Right.
Not. Because they don't believe the person has the ability to not engage
Yeah,
in
but
yelling.
then it's also different where if I promise that I'm not going to yell at you this weekend, and I do, and I apologize for that, but then from that I am actually like actively doing things to improve that, so that there is like this proof.
Or it's a
that-
demonstration.
Yeah,
It's at least a demonstration.
yeah,
I don't think you can prove that I am trustworthy. I think that's an experience.
I think that yes,
It's a sense. It's our human development uses so many neurons, mirroring neurons, biology, helping us to discern. Like,
Okay.
how does that work?
All right. I just had a thought. Thank you, Victoria, because I think that kind of.
you're welcome, John.
Well, no, I
Thank
think
you for
now
letting him speak. No,
we go. Sorry. I went into Best Buy the other day.
Okay.
Okay, and I wanted to pick up some headphones. They were on sale, half price.
Nice.
I tried to pick them up. No, we can't do that. We can't let you take them. And I'm feeling like, you're treating me like a damn child.
Right.
You don't trust me
To do this.
to do this. You've got a cop there,
Wow.
and you
right.
don't let me do this. It was so insulting to me.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, wow, that's
How these things play out.
how these things play out.
In
We
a
live
real
in
experience.
Yeah.
In just a moment, and it touches on
I'm
something.
71 years old.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can still feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's powerful.
Are you really?
Because
71?
we think.
Yeah. I look good, don't I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said, is he really 71?
He's
Yeah,
71.
I'm 71.
He's beast. He's bomb.
Well, we're all
When
sorry,
you say
we're
hello,
all 20
boomer.
years apart.
Hello.
I'm
hel-
31, you're 51, he's 71.
Okay, Victoria.
It's a hello.
Sorry.
Hello, boomer.
ADHD.
I could be your grandfather.
Victoria, come back to us.
Sorry.
Come back to
No,
us.
no. But, and
Okay,
I
I'm
trust
sorry.
you.
Huh?
And I trust you, Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to cough in your face.
No, you can cough in my face. It's,
I'd rather
Listen,
not.
all right, you guys are lost. I got to pull
Okay,
it back.
anyways.
So there's something that I was thinking about as well, John, in this. We talk about vulnerability, but I think a lot about friendships. And I didn't realize that until now. It's piecing together in my brain. I'm connecting two things right now. Because I have traditionally talked about actively making friends. Like people oftentimes just, well, it happens naturally. I don't know. It's weird to think about, like, I'm going to target people and try to make friends.
In hopes of making a
in
friend.
hopes of finding a friend. I mean, that's truly what we do. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't do, and you know what they tell us in therapy, right? I ain't got none.
Yeah.
I ain't got no friends. So one of the things that I've thought about over the years in making a friendship or improving the friendship goes with a rule that I literally learned myself 5-6 years ago, and that is to say, you share on the level that the friendship or relationship is, or that you want it to be. Now think about that.
Mm-hmm.
If
That's
we're
good.
really tight, Victoria,
No, I get what you're saying.
I'm going to share a lot with you because I know you and we've been really tight and we're close. But I'm not as close with John, so my level of sharing with him is going to match
'Cause you worship me.
Yes,
That's
indeed. So I can't.
But
be
if you
closer.
wanted to be closer
Let me
to
finish.
John,
Let me
sorry.
So the other piece of that, it's okay. The other piece of that is, in order to strengthen the relationship, like I said, you tell something. It's the vulnerability. Like if you target somebody, and John, I want to be closer to you, so I'm going to purposefully increase the amount that I share about myself.
Yes.
And that has an inherent effect of deepening and broadening our friendship. So what I never realized is that's a purposeful trust building activity. Share about yourself, right?
I would use as an example my being in the hospital for 8 days,
Long time.
a long
Long
time,
time.
4 days in isolation, is I got texts from a certain person, a group text from a certain person in Metrolina, and that helped me a lot.
Oh, I'm
My
so glad.
cousin called me, my sister, my brother, every day, my mom, my people that my friend from Montana, who's a professor, and also my childhood friend, and then of course Neil, and I just felt so loved.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But then that also builds trust.
That builds trust. I know I can go to them. I was in my worst state because I thought maybe I had cancer.
Right. Scary.
It was scary as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
It-
Thank you for that, John. I think what you're teaching us is understand that when you're compassionate and kind, that builds because you're being trustworthy. That's an actionable.
You all were
act.
trustworthy.
Right. Now, you still could be trustworthy and not be trusted by the person. So there's issues there in your ability to trust. Well, we haven't talked about that yet, but,
That might be another conversation for another day.
Yeah, it would be. But that's a very powerful deepening of friendship and relationships. And John, I didn't realize that. So that's really special that you share that and realize, what's his name? There's a ESPN guy. I love what he says. He's a West Virginia dude too.
Not Keith Oberman. No. No.
Oh my gosh, I forget his name. Neil, you're a sports guy. Come on. What's the ESPN
I don't know.
daytime everyday noon McAfee?
Yeah.
The McAfee show. Jeez.
I have no idea who
John
that
I
McAfee.
know who you're
He's
talking
a
about.
WVU kicker. He's
Yeah.
a great guy on ESPN. But what he says is do something nice to somebody, you might change their life.
Yes.
He says that every show. And I love that. Because when you do something nice, you might change somebody's life is an absolutely true statement. It's his thing, and that builds trust. It builds affection. It builds connection. It builds rapport. It builds a lot.
Plants a seed. It's like if you're like, have you ever had anybody buy you your call ahead? I mean, they're behind you and they pay for your
In the drive-through?
drive-through. That's
Yeah, it's happened to me.
Yeah, I've
several
done that
times,
before.
yeah.
That's
My
wonderful.
And I've
church
done it for
does
other
that.
people, yeah.
Yeah, my church does that. It's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, I had that happen about 3 months ago. I was like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's very
Yeah,
nice.
it
It's
is.
very powerful. It gives you trust in humanity.
Yeah.
It does.
So I don't know if you went through that real quick, clearly. There are people that carry a strategy to go up to the drive-in when they're picking up their food or paying, and they say, I'm going to pay for mine, but I'm also going to pay for the person behind me. And then the person behind you comes up to the window, and the person at the restaurant says, hey, this person already paid for your meal. And,
Exactly.
And the hope is that you continue it.
Yeah.
Pass it on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, do it for somebody else.
I was in a Starbucks line one time where I was like number 40 something of someone who would it was
Paid
maybe
it
it wasn't
forward.
40. It was like in the double digits. Like I was in the line.
I must have been in the same
Did they
line.
paid for everybody?
No, we're
I
like
don't
that's how long it had continued.
They
Like,
continued to
They
change.
continued to pay for the person behind them
Oh,
over and
seriously?
over. And I was like I don't know. I
Was
was like
that
the
the
double digits.
Starbucks down-
No, it was a Starbucks in Monroe one time.
Really? I've
Yeah.
never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Well, because that's the goal of why people do it. Like, if someone does it for me and the person behind me doesn't have an astronomically high amount
Yeah, and it's
bill,
not a $100
and there's
bill.
someone is behind me. Now it's happened
Do
to me
it again.
before where then there's been no one behind me, and so then I can't really continue it. But
That's interesting. No, I didn't know
Yeah.
that was a.
I,
That was a
I
thing.
think that's a good thing to do. Practice, but that also engenders trust in yourself. That when you do something like that, you're saying, "I trust humankind,
yeah,
humanity."
that'll be worth it, and that'll be
Yeah.
Transparency is huge. And I literally had a conversation just yesterday or maybe this morning about being transparent and how that transparency operates. And yeah, it was actually a substance abuse client and his wife came in, and we were talking about how what's very different now from the past rehab, maybe 4 or 5 different rehab stints, comes home and relapses, that what's different now is they're both uniquely being transparent with each other. How many times do you look at your spouse and say, "Yeah, Victoria, I know some stuff's up. I can see that look in her eye. I see it. I know it. How you doing?" "I'm fine," she says. "I know. No, you're not. Just tell me what's going on. How's your day?"
right.
"Oh, it was good."
Yeah, nothing happened.
Being non-transparent destroys my trust in you.
But then I also think it goes vice versa, where there's sometimes where I might be like, internally, I'm like, there's something I really need to tell Chris, but I don't really know if I should tell him, and then I choose to like keep it to myself.
Yep. You
And
missed a
then-
trust building opportunity.
Yeah, and then that potentially has like ramifications of, like whatever.
Absolutely.
But because one thing I always say in my office is like the truth usually comes out.
It has a
Going to
tendency.
posit this is that the transparency. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm done.
The transparency builds trust, and so might help with the client that's been in rehab 4 or 5 times.
Absolutely.
That
It's what's
this
happening.
time it works if it worked if you work
Working it. He's working transparency.
you
He's
work
telling
it.
the truth, which is hard to do, John, when you feel shameful or guilty or scared. By the
for
way,
sure.
these are not easy tasks, as simplistic as they might sound, to actually do them. By the way, Whew. All right. Make agreements, then expectations, then follow them rigidly. It's a phrase.
Yeah.
We've talked about expectations before. Make agreements, then you can have expectations, then you follow them. And I'm actually using the word rigidly because that builds trust. It's predictable and all the things we've talked about. But then you can change them if you need to.
Yes, because
you
things-
renegotiate the agreement. You re-up. I thought we agreed that we were blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot. Okay. We're re-upping. We're reaffirming, right? That's
Or we no
actively
longer
doing
need an
trust.
agreement for this specific topic because circumstances have changed, so let's change it.
Right?
But let's talk about it so that we can change it.
Talk about it. Have a routine. If you're really, really struggling, I have had marriage counseling suggestions of agree to a time, agree to a place, and an amount of time, and have a check-in, and make it routine. Once a week,
I
once a
think
month,
some
something.
couples make mistakes when they go to a place that they both enjoy being, and then somebody does business. Maybe not the time to do it. You might have another place.
Okay.
That's less
Good point.
threatening.
I like
Yeah.
that, yeah. And doesn't, yeah, and we go here for fun.
You don't have the good memories. So
Yeah.
in other
Okay.
words,
I like that. Good point.
We used to do, my husband and I used to do Sunday night family meetings.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like,
So how about this sentence? I'm curious, Victoria, if you've ever
Yeah.
heard it. Seek understanding of one another through curiosity. I actually was working with, I'll say my therapist, and he taught me that. That's something I learned actually as
Really?
a client over the last few years. He's
Seek
hammered
understanding.
the idea of develop curiosity so that then you can seek an understanding. And I think when you really do that effectively, that's actively building trust. Fair?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take any kid who, like, if I want to be able to trust bugs, because I don't like bugs. Well, some bugs specifically. But I have the curiosity to learn more about them so that I can understand them more so that I don't, like, freak out every time I see a spider,
I was wondering how you're going to pull that off.
then like, yeah, I'm
She's
gonna
talking
like
about trusting bugs now, John. What
I'm
the
gonna
heck?
like go to the library. I'm gonna
Yeah,
look up things.
okay.
I'm gonna look up how
Down with
helpful
that.
spiders are and how like
Desensitize
and so
yourself.
that way when I see the spider crawling in my office or whatnot, I don't.
Freak out because
Freak
it's not
out.
going to kill me. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point, and thank you, Victoria, for doing it that way. I didn't expect it and didn't know where it was going, but think about it. If you are sitting there with your spouse and you do not understand something about them, and they convey and you ask and you seek understanding through curiosity, now suddenly you're closer because you actually understand, the spider.
Been married 42 years, and I learned something about my wife I didn't know before. And I thought, what else can she tell me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was something from childhood, and she had a good memory of it. And I'm saying, I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was sort of like a joyfulness.
another piece.
Yeah, another piece.
Another piece here, another piece there. As the years go on, how many pieces do you learn? That breeds trust.
Yep.
Yeah. And when you're dating, that's probably really powerful when you're dating. You're going to take the risk, you're going to share, you're going to be vulnerable, you're going to say something that's a little risky to share. Well, that
Yeah, if
builds
I want to build trust, yeah.
right? All right, lastly, honor agreed upon deadlines. When you have deadlines or you make promises, honor them. You don't know how much you're destroying. John, when you said that earlier, I was like cheering because when you don't honor a deadline or you don't honor a agreement or you don't honor like this, you're just breaking a promise, and it's going to kill trust, and it also builds trust when you do. So it's honestly like sometimes I'll tell people like make a deadline and hold
It might be
to
helpful.
it
Yeah.
so that you can find out for yourself and trust yourself, or with the other person, trust each other. So that's another quick piece. All right.
Yep.
Well, I'm aware of the time, and I'm going to do something that I don't usually do because I don't like to do it. I don't think it's as interesting, but just reading. I don't have time, and honestly, this is a handout. I think I gave this to you, Victoria, a while ago.
Oh, is that the cheating thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Restoring Trust and Intimacy. This is a colleague of mine named Jeff Shook that created this. It's developmental steps after an affair. We've done a whole show on this before, but what?
I said I have to peace out
We're
because it's 7:30. Unless you're almost done.
yeah, we're almost done.
Okay. I can hang out for.
Can
another
you
few
send
minutes.
this? Can you send this to me?
Yeah,
Or-
I will. Okay, so I'm just going to read through this fast. The betrayer needs to reflect on what led him or her to the affair and what drew him or her to the other person. What was the legitimate need that led to the dysfunctional behavior? Cool? The couple needs to acknowledge that they each significantly contributed to problems in their relationship. The faithful partner is not responsible for the betrayer's choice or choices. They need to acknowledge that gaps in the relationship left it vulnerable to an affair. Okay? The couple needs to work on actively and behaviorally working on forgiveness and reconciliation. What will be done or said to practice forgiveness? Question mark. He's provocatively telling us this is active and you need to do it. The couple needs to intentionally build trust and intimacy through working time and dating time. Working time includes problem solving, communication, listening, conflict resolution, planning, and activities which build into the relationship. He says 45 to 90 minutes per week. Dating time is alone time without the kids or other people, 3 to 5 hours a week. I always laugh at this one because he's so particular, so specific, and that's just Jeff personality.
Yeah.
So he comes out in that one loudly. Next, the betrayer needs to volunteer, keyword, accountability, including time, behavior, finances, activities, phone calls, emails, etc. Okay. The betrayed person should not play the trump card. Okay. The couple must survey the damage. They need to stay present with one another emotionally while acknowledging the negative impact of the affair. The betrayer can reveal themes, but not specifics regarding the choices in the affair. On rare occasions, a specific may reveal some issue of the heart. The person who asks needs to state what he or she will do with the information, how it will help, and commit to self-care if the information is painful. I know there's a lot there. We're not going to talk about it, but there's a lot there on that one. The betrayed person needs to understand that closure for the betrayer may be an emotional process that involves some loss and grief. Okay? Lastly, the betrayed person should acknowledge the legitimate need that was wrongly attempted to be met through the affair and allow the betrayer to bring that legitimate need into the relationship. Listen, if you're going through an affair or trying to recover trust after the affair, play that back. It's a great list. Otherwise, I don't want your brain to be too stuck on these things. That's why I just wanted to read it through real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you picked up on anything in there, how purposeful, Victoria, is that?
Super.
How specific and
Super.
behavioral is this list? Like,
Super.
I have kept this, and I don't keep many handouts because it's
You
really
don't, yeah.
powerful.
I have it. You've given it to me, yeah.
Yeah. And John, I'll give it to you right now.
Thank you.
Right? So I just blew through that, and we want to wrap up. I know our time is short, but let's
See, I'm all shook up by
Are you
Jeff
sure?
Shook.
Sing it, John.
I'm all shook up.
What did you mean by that? What do you mean?
No, his name's Jeff Shook.
Oh, you're all shook. Jeff is all shook. Wow.
That's a dad pun.
That is a dad joke, John. Usually,
Yes.
I love your stuff. That one there, I'm struggling with. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Say that. Jeff's a cool dude, man. I'm sure
Okay.
he's had trauma from his life, causing him to distrust people, making fun of his last name, like Gazdick. Anyway, let's look for a moment at how do you know when you're really in a good space with somebody and there's a high level of trust. I mean, you can feel it. It's wonderful. But what are some specifics? How do we know this?
Confidence,
Okay?
specifically when talking to each other.
Oh, having a sense of confidence. I like that.
Yeah,
And comfort.
yeah. Comfort, yeah. It was the other word I was going to think of. I was thinking of comfort and confidence.
I'm going to say this. This might sound counterintuitive,
Okay.
but I'm wondering if you don't have to spill the beans on everything. You feel comfortable enough with your partner that it's okay.
Safe.
Because the
You
trust
feel
is
safe.
there.
The trust is there.
Okay. I like that. That's true. And it does sound a little counterintuitive, but that's kind of similar to like, John, when you and I drive in a car, we're probably going to chat the whole way.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Unless we have a level of safety and trust, it could be just silent.
Uh-huh.
How cool is the silence?
Silence is cool.
As a matter of fact, I was thinking of that because that guy, Jeff Shook, he was a colleague of mine. We enjoyed some silence on the way up to Raleigh to a conference, and it was nice.
Yeah.
It felt comfortable. Yeah. So open and honest communication seems easier or even easy. Oh, it's a wonderful space. You mentioned confidence and feeling comfortable in that. Feeling the mutual respect, like a respectfulness.
Like the great
Specifically of boundaries.
with the great rock therapist, the Eagle said, "It's a peaceful, easy feeling."
Oh, yes. Love that.
Yeah.
It really is, John. I mean, do you have that person that you just know, you got my back, you're not going to stab me.
You don't have to worry.
Don't have to worry. I really feel secure. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Consistency in actions, predictability, conflicts and disagreements are literally really okay. I mean, listen, these relationships are possible. I know that you have some of them or some elements. I want you to feel capable and hopeful about being able to deepen your relationships. But I want you to really understand you're going to need to make a purposeful decision with specific activities, behaviors, and actions to accomplish it. This does not happen automatically. It really only happens when you're purposeful, whether you realize it or you don't even realize
And it has to begin
Second
with
that.
you. Intentional. With you.
being trustworthy,
You
Rather
are
than-
trustworthy. Yeah.
blaming the other person.
And we're
because you can't
expecting another person to be trustworthy. You be trustworthy.
go first.
Be that.
Yeah.
Be
I like that.
I agree.
All right. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Good stuff. Take care. Be well.